Hello, and welcome back to Chaotic Insights, where I break down the TV show Chaotic, and today we'll be talking about episode 37, Going Under. So grab a snack, start your laundry, and we'll dive right in. Episode summary: Tom wins a match as Tanith Toborn on accident against Von Blut. And Tom is upset because he's been losing a lot lately, because he's been getting more challenge matches from Underworld players. So he decides to become an Underworld player to better understand them. Then we see Tom win a series of matches as an Underworld player, and initially Kaz is thrilled that Tom is getting more into the Underworld, but then Kaz becomes insecure. In the end, Tom reassures Kaz about their friendship, and Tom credits Kaz for his wins because Tom based his underworld strategy on Kaz's matches. And that's the episode we're dealing with. So, on to analysis. The hook of this episode is starting in the middle of a chaotic battle, aka starting in media res, R-E-S, in media res. I don't know how to say it. AKA starting in the middle of the action rather than at the beginning. It also kind of serves as the inciting incident because it shows the source of Tom's frustration, that he won through luck and not skill. And it makes sense that he's gained notoriety, that more people would want to challenge match him to prove their own skill. Tom has proven that he's a great player through winning his Codemaster match. And through that he's gained notoriety, and if people want a challenge, they'll challenge match him. And so it makes sense in the world that we've created thus far, which leads us to his thesis statement: I have to become an underworld player to understand them. Okay, method acting. It's also very much giving claim evidence warrant, like when you write an essay. His claim is if he uses underworld creatures, he will better understand them. It's also like his hypothesis, like he's kind of doing the scientific method here. My hypothesis is if I use underworld creatures, I will better understand them. Now, his evidence is his success in his matches, and if we're doing the scientific method as well, that's his testing, that's his trial, right? He's playing matches as underworlders, and then his results would be that he does understand them better, or he doesn't, and he does. But the warrant would also be explaining how the evidence supports the claim, and that's something we don't really get here, but we do get an explanation of how Tom studied Kaz's old matches and how that helped Tom to better understand Kaz as a friend. And this is really a Kaz-focused episode because Kaz is excited to share a new world, excited to share this commonality with his friend Tom. And although Tom goes through the arc of trying to understand Underworlders and then sticking with Overworlders, right? He's going through a metamorphosis, he's going through a change, and then like ending in the same spot. The emotional weight of the episode is connected through Kaz, especially when people start complimenting Tom on his work as an Underworld player, his ability, right? Kaz is starting to feel eclipsed. He's starting to feel obsolete because Tom was the better player to start with. He has the better record. He's defeated a Codemaster. And Tom and Kaz ran in separate lanes, right? They're both chaotic players, but he's distinctly overworld and he's distinctly underworld. And it's more difficult to be supportive when you're in direct competition with your friend. It's not impossible, right? But it's more difficult. It's a different situation. And Kaz is feeling the effects of being in direct competition. Now, ultimately, that insecurity is quashed by flattery, right? Tom mimicked Kaz's moves, therefore making all of his wins a compliment toward Tom, or not toward Tom, making all of his wins a compliment towards Kaz, making them a tribute. And like through the transitive property, right? If Tom wins a match, but with Kaz's moves, therefore Kaz won that match, right? That's kind of the thinking there for Tom. Which the explicit lesson of the episode is that it's actually cool to have different interests in friendship. And I would argue that Tom and Kaz actually both have a very similar interest, and that interest is chaotic. But they both specialize in different niches of chaotic, right? Tom is the overworlder, Kaz is the underworlder. And so having them both specialize in the same niche of underworld, it just made them too similar. It it made them too similar, and Kaz started to struggle to find his place in that relationship. Whereas they do both have the commonality of being chaotic players, and that's enough commonality to have a foundation, right? Being too similar can make your friendship more difficult versus, you know what they say, opposites attract. But they're not really opposites because they both have that commonality of chaotic. You know, it's like if two people like baking, they have a commonality. And if two people both like baking cupcakes, they have a commonality, right? But if both people specialize in making a different form of like red velvet cupcake, that's like really hyper specific. And you know, you have commonality there, but the hyper specificity of that commonality, I don't know, just makes it different. It makes it more difficult. Now, in this episode, we do have Sarah spewing some overworld rhetoric in this episode too. She says overworlders are honest and trustworthy and straightforward, and underworlders are not that. And this further cements the way that the tribes are perceived in Param and in chaotic culture. And on the flip side of that, like we get the sentiment that underworlders think that everybody looks down on them, which makes them angry. And so we're like throwing sentiments, we're throwing rhetoric, we're throwing stereotypes at these tribes, right? Every underworlder is angry because they think overworlders look down on them, right? Every overworlder is honest and trustworthy and straightforward. And even like honest and trustworthy and straightforward are harmful stereotypes because it's like putting overorders on a pedestal and right, you're still putting them in a box, even if that box has like a positive connotation with it, you're still limiting them to like these words. And so either way, it's still like harmful. But you know, it really goes to demonstrate the culture that is created in chaotic. Onto lore, let's talk about chaotic message boards. Because I feel like this isn't breaking news, because in like Bodrin or Bust, Reggie and Kaz somehow get in contact through online game. And it's not so far-fetched that like some version of Reddit exists in this chaotic universe, but we get a mention of chaotic message boards, and you know, it just it demonstrates the culture, it spans the world. What more can I say? Now on to there's a sewer system in Underworld City, and it's either some kind of sewer system or it's some kind of aqueduct system. I also think this is the first time we see the statue of Kaor in the center of Underworld City, like in that town square. And so we're getting a little more context to this city. Um, but it being a sewer system or it being aqueducts, like that's technology that is occurring in the underworld and it helps make the city go. So we learn about that. Also, there's not a whole lot of new lore in this episode. It very much plays in the world that has already been created and established, and you know, you can't blame it for that. On to fun facts and other notes. I have wide shot pan up of Tank of Toborn ascending the spiral staircase in Gothos Tower, which is a big chaotic shadow warriors on Wii. Now let me talk about that. Okay, wide shot pan up on Tank of Toborn ascending the spiral staircase in Gothos Tower, which is giving big chaotic shadow warriors on Wii. And let me tell you about that because as a kid, I was stuck on the battle at Gothos Tower forever. Like, I was stuck there forever, and I just gave up eventually. And then I circled back to the game, and I, like, got through it. And then I was like, you're telling me that was the final boss level? Like, you're telling me I was stuck on literally the last battle of the game, and once you won that battle, like, the game is over? Like, color me stoked. But also, I was so frustrated because if I knew that, I would have like I really would have powered through and just finished the game because I like not that I'm not a big gamer, but I didn't finish a lot of video games just because you know I was a child and not extremely skilled at video games or you know the patience whatever you know whatever. I just like didn't end up finishing a lot of video games, and so the chaotic game being the one that I like really did almost finish, and then like later I did finish it, and I've played it a second time since then that I finished again, and it was much easier as an adult, I will tell you. But I just this spiral staircase is so locked in my mind because of that moment, like hours and hours of like the load point is at the bottom of the spiral staircase, and then you have to walk up it to get to the battle. And so I've climbed that spiral staircase so many times. And that's synergy. That's intellectual property. That's branding. Creating cohesion between the game and the TV show. It takes me there. You know, seeing that just takes me there. And that's my life. Now, moving on, Is a Lizard gets to start because of his unique choice of headgear, and it's just one of those moments where the Codemasters, they can really make whatever rules they want, and they love to be shady. Can't a boy wear a hat? Um, that's all I'll say. We also get a cool oblique angle when Zor attacks Seattle. That's something I wrote down. But this episode also references Kaz's past battles, which Run With Them is the Borth Majar episode, episode 14. That's the like cause and effect situation. The vial drivers happen in episode 4 when, they crash into each other and then he ditches and wins. And I couldn't place the lava lance attack off the top of my head, but I also like didn't go back and look. So if you know what he's referencing there, let me know. I do also have to mention that Sam Shady is of course referenced in this episode, and we love him. He's an OG. So my final thoughts on this episode is, yeah, I like this episode. Um, I've taken like, you know, 15 weeks off making these videos, and of course I've switched locations and life has happened. And I have to say, like, maybe some distance makes the heart grow fonder. Like, this really is a cute episode. It rewards longtime viewers with the callbacks going all the way back to episode 4. It's a cute lesson on how varying interests strengthen relationships. And if you're feeling insecure in a friendship, you should just talk to them. Um, and then obviously they'll admit that they've been copying your battle strategy the whole time, right? That's just how life works. But it's interesting how an undetermined amount of time passes in this episode. Like, it's more than just a few days. We get 2 time jumps, one between each of Tom's matches, and those time jumps are necessary for Tom to improve and Kaz's insecurities to fester. But this is like a solid and entertaining episode, and I think it really rounds out season 1 nicely. With the callbacks, with the focus on strategy, with the focus on friendship. It's an episode that I don't say is like targeted towards kids, but in a show that is targeted towards kids, sometimes it's important to build skills to introduce like, how to be a friend. And this is one that, it has those lessons that are important for that demographic. And it's cute and it's fun and it's fun to be in this world and I love chaotic. And those are my thoughts. So let me know what you think. And of course, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.